Chapter 5, Entanglement. Training with CAISSA, I learned, differed from training with Veli in ways I hadn't been expecting. Oh? For one thing, there was a lot more technical information. He introduced concepts Veli had never even bothered to mention. Oh, back in time.
Your sphere is essentially your area of awareness, though in terms of telekinesis, it can also be considered your range.
Have we done the sphere? Knight's ability to teleport. Up and out. And extend their spheres. Okay, yeah. I'm pretty sure we read about that before.
When we utilize Psi to a specific effect, we build a cage around whatever we want to affect. This allows us to narrow our sphere to that specific object, person, location. Currently, your use of Psi lacks structure. Utilizing Psi is all about your mental image. If that image is chaotic, your Psi will be chaotic and difficult to control. I believe that's the issue you're facing, at least in part.
I really like that effect, by the way. That was really nice. For our first few days of training, he focused on getting me to come up with a more structured way to view and imagine Psi. It was interesting how differently he and Veli approached their abilities, but CAISSA's methods were helpful in their own way. The other thing that surprised me was that he was, well, nicer than I'd imagined. Yeah? Sweet and almost kind, perhaps? He always spoke in such a quiet voice, always calm and bordering on monotone even when I was frustrated. And he had developed a way of talking me down from those moments which never failed to catch me off guard. In fact, I had just been talked down from ripping my hair out in another bout of frustration. Because CAISSA also had a way of calmly pushing me to the point I sometimes thought I would lose it.
I'm still unsure why you take so much time trying to focus.
Because Veli always screams at me about how important it is. When I tried to glance back at him, CAISSA stepped out of my view again.
Don't look at me. Look at your target. You and I both know you don't need help focusing, nor do you need to take so much time trying to do it. You're naturally more focused than most other people thanks to the nano expansions you received during school. As long as you're paying attention, you don't need to stand still for 5 minutes centering your thoughts.
Then why is this so hard?
Because you're afraid, not distracted. And I'm not referring to your anxiety about failing. In fact, I believe you're afraid of succeeding, and it's holding you back.
I'm afraid of succeeding. How does that even make sense?
Do you disagree?
My teeth worried the inside of my cheek as I thought about it. The weights on the opposite side of the room were still sitting where they had been since our session started. CAISSA insisted I should be able to lift them with my telekinesis, but they were quite heavy. You think I'm unconsciously limiting myself?
I do.
Because I'm afraid of success?
Correct.
How do I stop doing that then?
Do you want me to be honest?
You are always frustratingly honest, when you're not deliberately hiding things from me. There was a soft sound behind me, almost like a chuckle.
If you want to overcome your limits, I believe you'll have to accept your current circumstances.
You mean accept that I'll be stuck here for the rest of my life?
No. On the contrary, I believe you are well aware there will come a time my father won't be able to hold you here, even if he wishes to. Rather, I suspect that somewhere in your mind you're convinced if you cannot progress, cannot show you're a queen rank worthy of being sought after, you can return to how things were.
Ooh, damn, he got you there, girl.
Because you know this mansion and the people in it are only part of your problem. If you flee, there are many others that will still want you. And Endgame, for instance, is just another kind of prison. Because it's not Crimson that imprisons you. It's what you are that holds you captive, just as it chains down the rest of us.
My jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. Sometimes I hated his brand of honesty.
You asked for the truth.
Technically, I only acknowledged you would give it to me, whether or not I wanted it.
And so I have.
Even assuming that what you're saying is true, I don't know how to accept my situation. If you, I don't know, ended up captured by another family, and they were forcing you to help them or work against your father, could you accept it?
Perhaps.
How? How do you accept something like that?
The same way you accept any circumstance you don't like or wish to deal with, but that you can do nothing to change. How would you have accepted it had you failed to meet expectations and could not have continued your education?
I wouldn't have accepted it. I would have found a way to achieve my goals no matter what.
By adapting. Because adaptation is survival.
Okay, I'm not confident. I can be stubborn and say sometimes adaptation feels more like giving up. Or be flexible. I mean, he's being very patient. Brutally honest, yes, but honest. Giving her some good points. Let's try to meet him halfway. Then how do I adapt? CAISSA? Nothing in any of my experiences so far taught me how to deal with any of this.
You first have to acknowledge that you cannot change it. You are here now. How long do you think you can continue to struggle with that?
It's barely a month.
Find meaning in what you can achieve here, Morgan. Set new goals for yourself while letting go of old ones. You may find there is more for you in Delphine than you realized.
Like a new boyfriend. Find meaning here? Is that how you've survived this long?
It is, yes. Finding meaning and working towards achieving something that isn't defined by what others expect of me. Remember, Morgan, you've not seen everything there is to see about us. Or me.
Ooh. To be fair, isn't that because you've kept me locked up in my room for weeks?
We never locked you in.
Oh, come on. If I'm not in my room, I'm here. And if I'm not in either place, I'm in the dining room before being walked back to my room. If there's some deep meaning in your father's criminal enterprise, then I'm afraid I can't see it from my bedroom.
You realize that keeping you to as few locations as possible is for your safety.
I'm aware of that, but I'm also just pointing out the drawback.
Are you even willing to acknowledge there could be something valuable to be found here with us?
If you thought I wasn't, would there be any reason to talk to me about acceptance and adaptation?
Perhaps not. I suppose that conversation would, inevitably, be about resignation. Though I doubt resignation will get you over this hurdle.
What he meant by all of that, I didn't know. Was he really expecting I'd find meaning here? Ugh. He's right about one thing, at least. There was a lot of uncertainty bogging me down. The last weeks had felt like slogging through quicksand. No matter how hard I clung to solid ground, I just kept sinking. Treading water for so long was just exhausting. Turning my back to CAISSA, I faced the weights at the other end of the room. Okay. I can do this.
Figure something out.
I jumped when I heard his voice so close to my ear. He was leaning next to me, a curious expression on his face. I glared at him. Stop doing that!
I believe you will work through this. You can be stubborn, but you are also smart enough to realize when you need to bend.
I don't... I stopped, unsure if I should finish that. It might not be wise to show weakness in front of this guy, but the soft romantic music is playing, you have to show some weakness. But I took a breath and met his eyes again. I don't want to lose myself in my attempt to reconcile with the situation. Something in CAISSA's expression shifted, softened. He reached out, gently trailing 2 fingers along my jaw, a feather-light touch that was gone almost before I realized it was there, Damn. For a moment, it was as if that wall behind his eyes crumbled, giving glimpse to the man who hid behind it.
If you were to lose yourself, it would be a pity. But adapting doesn't mean fundamentally changing who you are. Not always.
He hesitated, as if unsure if he should say more. At some point, he closed the short distance between us. I wasn't even sure when. It felt like the air between us had been sucked away, and for a moment I was struggling to remember how to breathe. Not because he was suddenly close to me, because he suddenly felt like him, and not some emotionless mask. There was something vulnerable in his expression. There was something there that wasn't there before. Something I hadn't seen before.
I don't want you to become like the rest of us. I think you are better as you are, Morgan.
His eyes went wide, then narrowed to slits. All the air that felt like it had gone whooshed back between us as he stepped away. And like that, the wall returned. Interesting. Just a small moment of vulnerability there that even he was taken aback by.
That is, I think you're more useful to this organization as you are. It's necessary to be flexible, to follow orders. That doesn't mean we want an automaton. Now, let us get back to work.
He spoke so quickly, words rushing out in what was almost a jumble as he fixed his eyes somewhere to my left and wouldn't look at me. What was that? My heart was beating. Far too fast for how much I told myself I disliked him. Yeah! There's something about the gym. You know? Something about the gym just brings you and the guy together in some way. Maybe it's a lack of clothing. I don't know. It's because he's so damn pretty. Of course my heart will pound faster if he gets that close. Sure. And how the heck was I supposed to focus after that? I tried to steady my breathing as I turned from him again. Right, weightlifting. With my brain. Got it. This man was really wreaking some havoc with my mental state. I feel you there, girl. For now... Romantic music, you can take a break. I should just focus on the weights. It was a manageable goal. Everything else? Well, I wouldn't solve my problems in one training session, that was certain. So I could put it aside for now. In the meantime, I focused in on my Psi, shutting out everything else in the room. I hadn't been able to abandon the idea of color, but now I could twist it around and make it do what I wanted, applying structure, as CAISSA called it. Since awakening, I'd been getting the feeling that I knew how to move things around or completely break them apart. But I didn't realize how limited I was until CAISSA started explaining better how to manipulate my Psi. And I realized that it was like knowing how to walk, but having your legs tied down so you couldn't do it. Training with CAISSA had been like having the bindings removed. Well, somewhat. At any rate, I was getting better at it. I wrapped my Psi around the heaviest weight, brows knitting together as I tried to lift. Sometimes it was like trying to lift an object with smoke. But other times my Psi felt almost tangible, like another body part. The more solid I could make it, the easier it was to lift things. This time was pretty good. The weight that I had barely been able to push along the floor now lifted a few centimeters off the ground. I winced as something pulled. But not really. It wasn't like I pulled my brain, as little sense as that made. But somehow it felt like it, like some non-existent muscle group protested being overworked.
Good. You're progressing. Now hold it there.
That would be easier to do if you weren't talking.
You aren't struggling at all to focus, even if I speak. Stop acting like that's difficult. With your enhancements, it should be nothing.
Oh, sod off.
Besides, you need to learn to work through distractions.
Yeah. How long do I have to hold this?
Can you lift it higher?
No. I can't. A bead of sweat rolled down my forehead. Damn, why was this so hard?
Alright, that's enough for now.
I released the weight, which slammed into the floor with a heavy thud. Needles of pain flashed behind my eyes and vanished. Much better than the first day, when the headache lingered for a few hours.
Well done.
You really mean that?
I wouldn't say it if I didn't.
I guess not. It was weirdly disappointing. He wasn't one to give praise when he didn't mean it. But somehow the thought that struggling to lift that thing off the floor was something worthy of praise was frustrating. It meant I had a long way to go.
You realize I can't lift it at all, yes?
He'd gone to retrieve my water from the other side of the room. I fumbled to catch it when he tossed it my way. You can't? Like, at all? He raised an eyebrow and glanced at the weight. It shook slightly, then scraped to the side by maybe a centimeter, then nothing. Your eyes are even prettier now.
My telekinesis is moderate at best. Lifting something that heavy is well beyond my capabilities.
But then, telekinesis isn't what makes a king rank so special, is it?
No. Our ability to control technology is, of course, far more valued.
Is it really such a valuable skill? I never thought much about the application of communicating with technology. Couldn't everyone do that anyway through the nanosystem? Not that I'm questioning your value as a person, or Esper. The little smirk was back.
Are you not?
No! I'm just curious. I have a lot to learn about all this.
Is it that difficult to understand the value my father would place in my ability to break into any system, change any record without leaving a trace?
Okay, I can see how that would appeal to the leader of a mafia family, yes.
And to be able to tap into an individual's personal nanosystem and tell their nanites to, for instance, attack their heart cells and make their heart fail.
Okay, that's terrifying. Now that's just horrifying.
Many Esper abilities are, no? More so when you consider the entire planet runs on the nanosystem. So those who can manipulate it to any degree are not just dangerous, but also inordinately powerful.
Are you saying you can control the entire nanosystem? Because if that's possible, why haven't you, taken over the world? That seems like something your father would be interested in.
The power and scope of my abilities are limited, as with every Esper. Remember what I've taught you about spheres.
Right. So you could only control the nanosystem within a limited range.
And even then, it's taxing on me physically due to the amount of precision required. Of course, there is the planetary AI.
I may not have read this yet. The so-called planetary AI was an entity developed by the previous civilization that lived on Arcalis. Its purpose was to control and maintain every computer system on the planet, from the nanosystem, weather systems, to basic life support functions in the domed cities. It was housed in a massive underground complex located in the Twilight region, and was one of the first things found by colonists on their arrival. Though the AI's personality was friendly and welcoming, humans were not comfortable with having their cities run by an alien computer personality. After its unwelcome intervention in a skirmish between two colony groups, the AI relinquished its control of Arcalis and was turned off. Its mainframe is still functional, and it is still slumbering in the underground complex where it was first found. The location of this complex is unknown, and since the Twilight region is neutral territory, no nation is allowed to explore the area to find it. Why do I feel like we're gonna run into this AI at some point? Will it be friend or foe, I wonder? Realization hit me hard. That was right. The planetary AI. Though the AI was dormant, a king rank could control technology, and the AI was technology. But again, if that was possible, you'd have done it already.
Correct. You see, the control hubs were all destroyed, and the physical location of the mainframe is somewhere in the Twilight Wastes.
Ah. Neutral territory.
zealously protected by Endgame. We believe Endgame's king knows the exact location, but for the rest of us it is currently inaccessible.
Alright. We'll see if maybe we get to learn more about the AI Magnus's route potential. Currently. Which meant people were looking for it. Because of course they would be. Is this the game everyone's playing? Try to figure out where the planetary AI is? Have a king on hand that can take control?
It's the game many people wish to play, if they could. But if it was that easy, Endgame would have fallen long ago.
Is that the game you're trying to play? He stopped, and once again, I got the feeling he was holding back, that he was making a decision to keep me in the dark about his real motivations. And I guess our conversation's over. Good.
Our session is over today. I have an afternoon appointment, so we'll end here for now. I want to...
He cut off suddenly, frowning as he listened to what I assumed was a message through the net. And then he snapped to attention, hurried to the door, and caught me by the wrist on my way out. Why does this keep happening? CAISSA, what?
There is a change of plans. You are coming with me.
Where are we?
Stop talking.
It seemed rude at first, but I realized from watching his expression that he was still listening to a message in his head. He probably didn't want me to distract him. CAISSA and I went quickly through the halls, trailed by Carrie, who had been waiting outside the training room. She must have known what was going on because she fell into step behind us without asking any questions. I mean, she may not know what's going on. She's probably just used to this seems like a regular occurrence at this point. I had to jog to keep up with CAISSA's pace. Man, on the way there, holding her hand, he also, put his hair up. That's very impressive. We reached his suite a few minutes later, and he burst inside, still pulling me behind him. Carrie stayed in the hall, pulling the door shut after us. CAISSA! Oh god, what happened to you guys? The words died on my lips when I saw Veli and Jack, both looking terrible. Veli was the worst of the two. Jack had a bit of bruising around one eye and a crusted-over scab at the corner of his mouth. Veli was half lying on the sofa, with one arm wrapped around his torso. He looked like he'd gotten the absolute hell kicked out of him. CAISSA was across the room without a word in seconds. What happened?
Sorry, Morgan, but can you keep your voice down? My head feels like it's about to split.
Emotional or cautious? I mean, I don't think I need to be cautious in this situation. Even CAISSA's emotional. I think we can go to Veli's side and check on him. I hesitated, then went to Veli's side when he let out a wheezing cough. He might not be my favorite person in the world, but he looked terrible. What happened?
Got in a fight, obviously.
I don't know. You could have been hit by a car. He gave me a scathing glare, but doubled over in pain as another cough escaped. Broken rib?
At least one, for sure.
You need to lie back and stop moving around. Depending where it is, it could puncture a lung if it hasn't already. Are you feeling short of breath?
What are you now? A doctor?
Someone who knows enough about broken ribs to know they can puncture lungs and cause shortness of breath. CAISSA was hovering nearby, watching the situation, but he still hadn't said anything.
Your father suggested we rethink calling Celeste to look after him.
I glanced up at CAISSA. His father? So Karis was involved in this?
Call her anyway. Already did.
He should try to move as little as possible until she arrives. Is there something I can use to at least clean him up a little? Maybe some analgesic for the injuries on his face?
Ignoring me, Butterfly. I'm a little hurt.
You're standing on your own and don't look like you're about to pass out.
Yeah, well, Veli got the worst of it for sure.
How does a queen-ranked Esper lose a fight?
He doesn't. He wins the fight, then gets his ass kicked by the big boss as punishment. I've warned you about fighting with my father's men. You know how he feels about infighting. I've warned your father's men about talking shit on you. regardless of your personal feelings.
CAISSA thrust a small box at me, crouching next to the sofa. He had a surprisingly worried expression on his face as he studied Veli's injuries.
It isn't good for any of us when this happens.
I know. Sorry, Kay. Those bastards just never fail to piss me off.
And they know speaking up against CAISSA is a simple way to do it.
Shut up, Jack. You're not much better.
As I listened to them, I rifled through to find what I needed to stop the bleeding and apply something for the pain. It was a basic kit, with dermal regeneration pads and a nano-infused ointment, but it would do. Veli coughed again. Easy. You can argue with Jack later.
I'm just saying that at some point, Karis will get fed up. You're going to lose a finger, an eye. Worse.
Jack, I said stop! Veli opened one eye, giving me a grin that was distressingly bloody, though I couldn't tell if it was coming from somewhere in his mouth or his swollen lip. Yeah. Oh, don't you start too, Veli. I'm trying to help, alright? Everyone stop being distracting for 2 seconds, okay?
Since when do you care about me, Butterfly?
I would care more about you if you didn't call me that. Haven't heard that one in a while. It was somehow creepy when Veli said it, though. Veli chuckled, but that petered out to a wheezing cough.
Don't look so upset. This is just another day here.
I dabbed an antiseptic cloth against his lip, wiping away the blood. That's what has me upset, thank you.
I'm surprised you're not happy to see me finally get what was coming to me.
If you believe her to be the sort to be happy about that, it becomes much clearer why you struggle to teach her anything.
Damn, thank you for defending her!
It's difficult to teach someone you know nothing about.
Damn! I didn't expect a defense to come from him, of all people! Veli smiled slightly.
I guess that's true.
So this whole thing was started by people talking about CAISSA?
It's usually something like that.
Why do people... I hesitated, unsure if I should finish that, but it was something that had been bothering me for a while. Why do people dislike you so much, CAISSA?
You got a few hours to listen to the answer to that, Butterfly. It isn't such a complicated thing that it would need that long to explain. It's like any large group. People are vying for more power, more control. The more trust a person has here, the more territory and men they're given. Responsibility is tied to power, power to privileges and payout.
And as Karis' son, that means you have the most power? So that would make it a jealousy issue, then.
There are concerns about that becoming the case, and those who think I'm unworthy of it. It is causing tension, now more than ever. Veli was the only queen rank in Crimson for years, and he answers to CAISSA alone. No matter who doesn't like that, there's not really a way to make a queen rank do anything they don't want to do.
Unless she's too weak to do anything else.
Like me.
And you also answer to CAISSA. You understand now why some faction leaders in Crimson might be angry you're under my care.
Yeah, I'm getting the picture. I kind of figured earlier, but yeah. Veli struggled to sit up and let out a wheezing hiss as he moved in just the wrong way. Will you lie down, please?
Veli, stop. You need to...
Why don't you tell her the rest of it? Why don't you tell her...
Enough. I'll tell her. Just lie still.
Tell me what?
You already know CAISSA's protecting you, Morgan. I know it's hard for you to see it, but he has been ever since you got here.
I know that.
There were, and are, people who would rather see you dead than in CAISSA's care. And those who are keen to see you turned over to them. Were that to happen, they'd do what my father suggested. Use whatever means necessary to get you to use your abilities. Torture. Brainwashing.
Well, we'd already had this talk that day Carrie briefly left her post. What happened that day wasn't enough to convince them to leave me alone, I guess. Though I suppose it would have been strange if it had.
And if that wouldn't work, they might find a way to drag your family into it.
What? My family? That thought hadn't even occurred to me, at any point.
Don't worry about them now. Your family is safe, and will remain so. I made sure of that.
He mumbled the last words, turning away so I couldn't see his face. Okay, and how did you ensure that? Made sure of that? How?
With the help of some contacts in the region, we relocated them. I changed their records accordingly.
You did what? When? What? Can I talk to them? Do they...
They do not know where you are, and it's better that they don't.
This is true.
They know you're safe. That will have to be enough for now.
I'd gotten the feeling before that maybe you'd been in contact with them, but so much happened I never managed to ask.
Endgame has been trying to locate them for some time, and I don't believe I can contact them without being noticed. Not directly. Right now, I reckon Endgame hasn't worked out with certainty that you're with Crimson, and that your family has just been moved. But that won't hold much longer. It doesn't matter. Even if they figure out, and I'm sure they've already got their suspicions, they aren't all powerful. They can't reach you here.
I had not been expecting this kind of revelation. Is this what CAISSA wanted to discuss with me? But why? Going so far as to protect my family. Hey, there's Celeste. There was a soft knock, and seconds later the door was opening and Celeste was making her way inside. I sat reeling from everything I just learned, staring at Celeste without really seeing her. She took one look at the situation and her expression soured.
I guess I should just be glad it isn't you again.
She gave Jack a scathing look as she approached the sofa and promptly shoved me to the side.
What took you so long?
He let out a soft groan as she started poking around on his torso.
I made it here in record time, thank you very much. Despite the rain and traffic. Now shut up.
Jack motioned CAISSA away, and having been evicted from my spot, I followed.
I think it would be good to get Veli away for a few days. Let him hide out at the court. Stay out of Karis' sight for a while. It might be wise. We can send him back with Celeste.
Where is the court, anyway? You talk about it like it's a place.
It's not a place, but there is a location where many people associated with it live. Chestershire.
Right. We did learn about this. City in Delphine, between Noir, Crimson, and other Mafia families. Right. Okay. I don't know where or what that is.
A slum city in the dome between Crimson and Noir territory. Neutral ground.
Noir is an organized crime syndicate located in Delphine. Headed by the notorious Millerose family, they have less reach than Crimson, but their reputation is just as bad as the larger group. They are especially notorious for rumored human trafficking and experimentation on Espers. They are one of 4 large crime families that hold sway in Delphine, and are constantly at odds with other families, whether in fights for territory or other issues. Okay.
Most of the Espers I've gathered live there. Since it's neutral territory, Karis doesn't have a lot of sway. It's easy for people to lie low, live safely, more or less. We keep information about court Espers very, very close. Even my father isn't aware of all the details. Some think of it as a branch of Crimson, but it's not. For the most part, my father views it as a worthless pity project. Just me being soft.
There was surprising venom in that last word, especially from CAISSA, who seemed so loath to show emotion. Is that what it is?
Do you consider helping people worthless?
Of course not.
Then you have your answer.
Helping them? Was that really all there was to it? CAISSA returned to Veli's side while Celeste worked over him. He spoke to them both in a quiet voice. This place sometimes gave the feeling of a web that entangled anyone who got too close. I couldn't imagine what it must be like to have been born into it. The rest of the afternoon was a blur. Celeste healed up Veli's internal injuries before Jack attempted to sneak her back out of the mansion without being seen. He and Veli left after that, hoping that if they were spotted still looking beat up, Karis wouldn't know Celeste had come to help. The amount of sneaking around in the shadows everyone did was a little intimidating. Mostly, it had been strange watching them look after each other so carefully. They treated each other like family. Okay, Veli was also kind of rude to everyone, but it was clear how much he admired CAISSA. He was willing to get into a fight to defend him. CAISSA inspired a surprising amount of loyalty from people. I was still working out what to think about that. Sleep, once again, proved elusive. It had been an exciting day, to say the least. The longer I stayed, the more I was getting entangled in everything. And all the things CAISSA said during our training session kept coming back to the forefront of my mind. I wanted to talk to him more, outside of training, to understand more of what he thought I was missing about this place. I wanted to see more of everything, not just the mansion, but Delphine, the court. There was so much far beyond my experience, my understanding. So much about him I didn't understand. He went out of his way to protect my family, to tell them I was safe. I didn't even have time to process that earlier, but now, he had done something like that. Something I was certain his father would have considered pointless. It wasn't as if I expected to find out that CAISSA was some beacon of virtue in Delphine's darkness, but I kept getting glimpses of something more. I wanted to understand what that was. There was a soft knock that startled me out of my thoughts, and... CAISSA? A midnight visitor? How scandalous! I could sense him on the other side of the door, waiting, strangely hesitant. Ooh, that's a cute robe. The thin robe I put on was... well, I was covered. It was good enough. Hey, we got pajama CAISSA in the house, let's go. Well, it's not really pajama CAISSA, but relaxed clothes CAISSA? Casual CAISSA? Casual CAISSA, that's a good one. When I pulled the door open, his eyes went up and down my body. Excuse you. Relief passing over his face. A smile crept over my features before I realized it, and I couldn't quite resist teasing. I don't always answer without dressing first.
I'm afraid that's not what I've heard.
It was just once.
Outside the first time, I believe it was twice.
Carrie survived.
She wasn't the one I was concerned about.
I sneaked a peek out at June, standing rigidly a few feet away with his ears about to evaporate off the sides of his head. Oh no! Rest in peace, June. Okay, I felt a little bad about that, but only a little. Did you need something?
You couldn't sleep. I thought you might like to go for a walk.
How did you know that I couldn't sleep? Keeping tabs on me, sir? How did you know I wasn't asleep? Do you have surveillance in here? Because I don't understand why you'd be worried about me answering the door in a robe if you do.
I can assure you I wasn't concerned about the robe. More the lack thereof. And no, we are not spying on you. You were projecting. Loudly. I am adept at clairvoyance.
Oops. Clairvoyance is specifically the knowledge of present events as they are happening despite the distance between the event and the Esper. Clairvoyance is a basic psionic skill possessed by everyone with psi energy, even non-Espers to some degree. It is the quintessential psi ability. For most humans with EA scores at or below the planetary standard, their mild clairvoyance allows them the ability to utilize the nanosystem naturally. For Espers, this ability is far stronger. For instance, it is what allows knights to locate and teleport to a targeted area safely. An Esper's range of clairvoyant awareness is related to as their sphere. Okay. I think I read that before, but I wanted to just kind of refresh my memory.
Your sphere is all over the place, and I couldn't help but notice when it repeatedly collided with mine. It's remarkable you're not aware of half of what's going on in the mansion right now.
Sorry.
It's alright. I also was unable to sleep. Hence, a walk. It may serve to calm us both down.
Maybe I should put something else on then.
Are you wearing pants?
No.
Please do at least that much before leaving your room.
One moment. Ooh. Garden date, let's go. This is lovely. It was strange going somewhere without either Carrie or June walking behind me. But CAISSA told June to stay where he was, and Carrie was in bed. Apparently they took turns through the night. We finally ended up at the greenhouse, which was one of the few other places I'd even been in the mansion. I smiled as we stole through the pet plants. Overhead, through the glass, the sky was so much darker than it ever had been in New Albion. I haven't been here since my first day. I almost forgot how peaceful it is.
I also enjoy that about this place.
As we walked down the winding path, he stopped briefly to inspect the leaves of a plant overhanging the path. I was surprised when Carrie told me you were the one who took care of all this. Man, this guy is talented and very efficient with his time. He does a lot of stuff.
Is that what she said?
Yes. And that it used to be your brother's. He inhaled sharply when I said that. That was all she said. Other than, if I was curious about your family, I should ask you.
And are you? Curious about my family, that is.
I am finding I am curious about you.
Is that so?
My face went warm at the sudden softness in his voice. It's just that I know almost nothing about you. And now we're working together, and I'm curious. I trailed off awkwardly, trying to look anywhere but at him. What the heck was I even saying? CAISSA chuckled. Such an odd sound, I glanced his way again.
How unexpected.
Is it?
You hate it here so much. I assumed that hate extended to me as well.
I don't hate you.
Oh?
Hate is such a waste of emotion and energy. I don't have the fortitude to hate someone on an ongoing basis. A lot here has made me angry. It was frustrating. To be brought here, to be thrust into all this without warning or explanation, to be told to give up on everything I used to know. But that part isn't entirely your fault. Sometimes it hurts.
I am sorry. I knew it would hurt you, and I did it anyway. You have the right to hate me.
I don't hate you.
For what it's worth, I regret that it ended up this way. You are better suited to the sun.
Damn, what a line! Damn, what a line, though. Sheesh. If you don't blush after he said that, I don't know who you are, girl.
And I have also been angry at having to live in this place.
Really?
Did you think I enjoyed it?
No. It seems clear that you don't. I mean, you've lived here all your life. I suppose I figured you were used to it.
I wasn't born in his mansion. Not like my elder brother. My mother was not loved, like Damus's mother. She was just someone my father used when the loneliness of his wife's passing was too much to bear. I was born in the slums to a woman who was sometimes too busy trying to survive to be a good mother. Like many others suffering in the streets of Delphine's outer districts.
So that was why I never heard him speak about his mother at all. I had wondered about that. Then how did you end up here?
My father rarely leaves loose ends lying about. I was 13 years old when he learned about my existence. 13 years old when he tore me from my screaming mother's arms and brought me here.
Okay, that's time measurement. I was wondering for a while, but then I remembered that he said that he had some memories of his brother. Because at first I'm like, did your father go out to find you because he needed an heir once Deimos died? But you actually met Deimos and spent some time with him, so that wasn't the reason.
It was the only time she behaved as if she wanted me.
I'm sorry. I couldn't think of anything else to say. There was little emotion in his voice, but it must have hurt to say that. CAISSA gave me a thin smile in return.
Deimos was the one who cared for me here. I almost never saw my father after that first day when I arrived. And when I did, he terrified me. To him, I was just a loose end. Another king rank he wanted to keep close. He never cared for me, and we've never agreed on much. Growing up in the slums, I saw how people were terrorized by his men. It did not please me to be here, to have to become a part of this thing I hated.
That was a feeling I also knew very well. CAISSA stopped again, lifting a heavy bell-shaped flower with thin veins of bioluminescent light flowing through the petals.
My father and I have rarely agreed on anything since I came here. If there was one thing we've shared, it was that we both loved Deimos. When he died, it was devastating for the entire family. Deimos had enemies outside the Fianchettos. Many, but few inside. He was like that. He could get anyone to like him. He was like a light the rest of us were drawn to like moths. I've always been viewed as an inferior heir. By father. By everyone. Soft. Unworthy. Unlikable. Insignificant. People have wanted father to name someone else heir since Deimos died. And he has refused, though there are others with support. Others who would be better. That's why I'm so hated, Morgan. But father refuses, and even I don't understand why. He gives me responsibilities, lets me dictate family policy, lets me fail. He lets me have my pity project in the slums. Even while other leaders in the family say I'm raising an army of Espers so I can remove him from his throne.
Are you? CAISSA just smiled slightly, a little sadly.
And what would I do with the sort of throne my father's built in this family? Or an empire built on greed and lies?
Maybe you could use it to build something better?
That is something only Deimos could have done.
Then what is the court to you?
Perhaps it's nothing more than a foolish attempt to rebuild the family I lost. Perhaps I did it to try to make a difference the way Deimos wanted.
There's nothing wrong with wanting a family, or with trying to make a difference.
Perhaps. But in the end, we are all pawns, Morgan. In a game much bigger than most of us can realize. I am simply trying to place my pieces in such a way that I can protect the most people.
He turned to me suddenly, eyes intense and one hand outstretched.
Will you help me do that? With your help, we could do so much more than we have so far.
I found myself reaching for it, but I hesitated, hand hanging awkwardly in the air between us. After a space, I drew it back. I don't know what helping you means, and I don't know what sort of difference you're trying to make. How can I make that kind of decision in this situation?
I see. Perhaps it is still too early.
For a moment, we were both silent.
Perhaps it would be best to return to bed.
He nodded towards the door, where, to my surprise, Carrie was waiting. I wondered when she'd gotten up, and why she'd come to find us. Thank you for the walk. He inclined his head without responding. And CAISSA, for what it's worth, I don't think you're unworthy. Or particularly unlikable. A faint smile came to his lips.
I'll remember that. Good night.
I left him there and walked back to my room with Carrie. She didn't ask about the walk, and I didn't offer to tell her about it. But as I fell into bed, I couldn't help but wonder at what a strange day it had been.